Hi there. Today we're having a look at the latest release of Nexus, my data-driven action dispatch system. This release contains a rather significant change in how Nexus dispatches actions and also a bunch of cool upgrades to the Dataspex action log. So I thought it might be worth having a look at what those changes are. So to demonstrate the changed behavior, we're going to use this classic application of the counter. You have a number, you can click the button to increase the number. And this is implemented with Nexus in the following way. At the very bottom here, we have a system, which is just an atom for this app. Our Nexus application can grab a immutable snapshot of that system using the deref function. There's one effect called save, which is basically just has search in on the contents of the system atom. And then we have this action that will take a path, look up the current value in that path, increment the number, and save it. You can see down here, we're dispatching actions step with a number path, and then we're looking up the number here, and that is what's powering this UI. To get to the heart of the problem, let's imagine we add another button to this view that instead of counting once, does it twice. Reasonable people would expect these two buttons to behave differently, so that this one would count 1, as it's doing now, and that clicking this button should now increase this number from 4 to 6. But that is not what it does. And let's have a look at why that is. When you dispatch a bunch of actions with Nexus in the previous version of Nexus, this is the algorithm it would use. It would take a look at all of your actions, and then go through action expansion first. And that means to take the current state, let's say it looks like this, and then pass it into this function, which is this function, to expand the action. So this one will be expanded to something like this. The path is this one, get in state path, that is the number 0. And then it would continue and do the same with the next action, while the state is still the same value. Effectively, this action here would just once again be expanded to this effect. And when it's done all of the action expansions, that's when it goes and executes the effect. So now it's just going to execute the same effect twice. And that is the cost of this behavior. For most people, this is not the expected or the wanted behavior. So in the new version of Nexus, this app behaves differently. Now I can click count, and it counts 1, 2, and then if I click this one, it goes to 4. Because now in the new version of Nexus, let's have a look. So this is the old version. So we'll grab these two again. New version. In the new version, you'll enter in here with state, once again, number 0. And then Nexus will look at this first action, and it's going to expand it, just as before. The path is still this one, and the number is 0. But here is the difference. Instead of now expanding this action, it's now going to keep working on this action until it finds an effect, which it effectively has right now. So it's going to execute that effect and then create an updated state snapshot. And then it's going to do the expansion for the next action. So this one's now going to expand to the same path again, but now this number is 1. And then it's going to execute this one, which will, of course, give us the next state value. The major change is that instead of just expanding all the actions and then executing them, it's now going to expand action until it finds an effect, execute the effect, update the state snapshot, and then keep going. Obviously, this isn't a purely backwards compatible change, but I think it aligns better with what people expect from Nexus when they see something like this. And even though I don't like making backwards incompatible changes, this really was the best option. If you're curious about why, I would encourage you to go to the doc directory in the Nexus repo and read this architectural decision record, which documents the decision, the trade-offs, and the alternatives that I considered, and why I think what we shipped was the best solution. So that was the change in behavior. Let's now have a look at the updated Dataspex action log. You can see it over here. So this is the Kanban app that I presented before. If I can drag a card, you can see actions being logged over here. This is nothing new to use to do this all the time, but the way you can navigate this log now is different from before. Let's see if we can click on one of these dispatches with multiple actions in them. Like before, you can see the dispatch time, you can see the DOM event, dispatch data, if you want to see that. And now you have the actions and all the resulting effects. But you can also click into each action to see how they expanded, which is a little bit different from how these used to be visualized. So if you click this one, you can see that it turned into this action. It turned into these effects. It took 3 milliseconds, and this is the state it operated on. And if you click the effects, you'll see the effect, the state it operated with, and the result, in this case, a promise, and then how long the effect took to execute. So that's cool. Another improvement is in this listing out here. Let's play around with the set task status action and just make a mistake here, like throw an error. So it used to be when you produced errors, things would not work, but this action log would not make them very visible. But now, if I drop it here, you're going to immediately see that there is this icon here indicating that something went wrong. And if you click it, you have the errors down here. It says expand action, produce an exception. You can click into it and you'll see was expand action. And this was the particular action that threw the error. That's useful. Another useful new feature is that slow actions will be flagged as well. So let's write this blocking function, block, that blocks until some point in time. So we're going to do JS performance. So we're actually going to read the literals for this because I'm in a CLJC file. So we'll do now, and then in closure, we'll do just system current time millis. Right, and then we'll add to this the milliseconds, and then we'll just do, let's make a function out of this actually. So while now is less than until, and then we'll just put a note here like, wait a little longer, and then we'll just call that here. Now, obviously, you would not be doing this in your production app, but you could do similar things that would cost, or not similar things, but you could do things that would cost a similar amount of time to pass. And if you do, then your action is going to get flagged with this clock over here because it took 152 milliseconds. So this threshold is going to be dependent on what you're doing in your actions. The default setting in Nexus is 100 milliseconds, and you can override it if you want to. To do that, you do action log inspect, and then you just do slow threshold 125, for instance, or let's say 200. If I do 200, then I can throw this over here, and now new actions will no longer appear as slow actions. So even though this is now taking 150 milliseconds, it's not being marked as slow. But if I reduce the threshold down to 100 and we go again, then it's going to get marked as slow again. So this, I think, will be very useful in catching things that are slow. And one thing that can be slow, even if your code isn't slow, is Nexus's interpolations. Nexus assumes it's going to be small data structures. And it's going to use closure walk to walk these structures to find placeholders that it can replace. If these data structures are indeed not small, then using post walk to walk them is not really fast. It's actually quite slow. If this was a huge data structure that you did not want to have interpolation inside, you can now tag it with some metadata, Nexus/skip interpolation. And then this thing will not be attempted interpolated. So if you see a clock appearing here and you see the time being spent during interpolation, then this is the fix you're looking for. I want to show you one more feature, and that is if you have asynchronous dispatches. If I drag another card over here, now this work in progress column is full. So if I drag another card, it's going to display an error message up here for just a short while, and then it's going to remove it again. So if you do that now, Here's the toast, and then boom, it goes away. Now you can see that this is a chronological log over the actions, but this one was dispatched after this one. But this little arrow here indicates that this one was dispatched from whatever happened in here. So now you can see that these two are linked. And in fact, if you click this one, you'll see dispatched by this parent thing. I think this can be quite useful in understanding how things came to be the way that they are. That was a quick update on what's happened in Nexus for the past year. If you're already using Nexus, I hope you enjoyed this update. And in any case, I'd love to hear back from you. You can find us on the Collegians Slack in the Nexus channel if you want to discuss stuff. And if you're not using Nexus, I hope that you'll give it a shot. And that's it for today. So thank you for watching.